This exercise allows you to explore some information about recent earthquakes. The layers that are on here all automatically draw down the recent information, so you don't need to do anything other than use this map. And it allows you to explore relationships between the magnitude of the earthquakes, the depths of the earthquakes, the intensity of the shaking of the earthquakes, and the population density. In other words, there are four factors in there that contribute to the effect or the extent to which the earthquake actually affects and impacts the people that live there. So how do you use this? Well, whenever we open it up, there is the recent earthquakes layer turned on, and you can see the intensity shaking. So let's go and explore this one down in Chile. Now we click here to turn on this that shows you the actual earthquake data itself, and we can click on here and find some information out about it. It's a 6.8 magnitude earthquake and at a depth of 96.8 kilometers. Now what we can then do is to take a wee look at the shaking intensity around that. Again, we can click on this and it tells us the Mercalli intensity scale, this is a 6, and it gives that description that the pupils can read to get a description of what it would have been like to have experienced that. Damage is slight, but it would have certainly been felt, and things would have fallen down in the house. Now, this is in Chile, near the Atacama Desert, so I wonder how many people are actually living in that area. We can turn on this layer, which shows the population density in the area, and the legend here gives us the key. And we can see here that in most of the areas affected by this, that the population density is very low. It's less than 1. If that's a little bit hard to see here, we can turn off that, and we can see that yellow and then the green there. Most of the area affected is less than 1, but in this area here, the population density is between 5 to 25 people per square kilometre. So that's a higher population density. So we can then go and have a look at the extent to which people are affected by that. We'll turn that layer back on again, and we can use the measure tool. If I select here the area measurement, what I'm able to do is to drag this around and get an approximate area here that has experienced the most intense shaking, and double click to finish, and we are over 11,000 square kilometers now. But remember, most of that area, very few people are living there. So what about the area that is mostly affected by the shaking, where you've got slightly higher population density? You can drag the area around here. Now, what this really does is allows the students to explore some of how those variables interact whenever it comes to noticing what the impact of an earthquake is. It's not enough simply to look at the magnitude. We've looked at the magnitude, we've looked at the depth, we've looked here also then at the intensity of shaking, and finally the population density. So that's quite a large area there where you've got a slightly higher population density, but most of the area affected by that is of lower population density. Now let's take a look at a couple of other, or one other earthquake. So just turn off some of those layers so we can see this better, and we're going to come over here. Another one that caught my eye was up here in the Northwest Pacific. Now I'll turn back on this layer of the recent earthquakes, and we discover that this one is a 7.8. The previous one was a 6.8. This is a 7.8, and the depth of this one is 58 kilometers. The previous one was 96 kilometers. So a higher magnitude, shallower earthquake. And that's why the size of this is much bigger than the previous size. So we can do that measure tool again. We can measure the area, get a sense of the area that's going to be affected by this. But of course we can then look at the location. That this earthquake has occurred under the ocean. So if we turn on the population density, we discover actually that the epicenter was far enough away from any populated areas that you're only down to level 4 by the time it comes on land here. Felt by indoors by many, outdoors by a few, at night some are awakened. Much less intensity, and that intensity is falling on a very, very low population density area. The settlement up here is where you've got the higher population density, and there is some evidence here of some of the effects being felt, but it's far enough away from the epicenter to do so, not to be affected to a very large degree. So what this allows you to do is really just to respond to some very recent events that have been happening around the world, and it allows you then to explore with your students what some of the variables are that interact in terms of an earthquake to produce the impacts that are actually felt.